Good morning, everybody. We're on the home stretch. Today is going to be a really interesting day. The next event that I'm off to is actually the Pacific Policing Response Group initiative, which is to really thank our police force. New Zealand has had the biggest deployment overseas of our police officers. We've got almost 120 here in country. I think from memory about half of them actually come from Samoan heritage, and they've been a huge success here in Samoa and keeping CHOGM safe and doing a fantastic job. But it's also a good example as part of the broader Pacific Policing Initiative for us to think about how Tonga, Samoa, New Zealand, Australia have come together here for CHOGM around an event like this, but also whether we have natural emergencies and other events throughout the region that we actually can come together as an interoperable team with like-minded approaches to policing to do that job. So that'll be this morning. And then at 10 o'clock the Leaders Retreat kicks off, and that's obviously the biggest part of that will be the appointment of a new Secretary General. And obviously some discussion about the future of CHOGM, I hope, as to where that's going. But again, for my first CHOGM, it's a great opportunity to hear and listen from other countries across the Caribbean, across Africa, across Asia and through the Pacific as to what they're hoping to get out of CHOGM as we go forward from here as well.
Prime Minister, yes. The Pacific Policing Initiative was started by Australia in collaboration with the Pacific. Obviously New Zealand's a big contributor to that. Has that process been going smoothly? It's the first deployment of that initiative? It's
gone really well. I mean, I met with New Zealand Police all through the last few days. Wherever I've seen them, I've stopped and thanked them very much for what they're doing. They've been well received because our community policing model from New Zealand, I think, translates really well into the Pacific. It's how we do it at home, and it's what's appreciated here as well. And as I said, there'll be a chance today with Prime Minister Albanese and Prime Minister Fiame and Tongan Prime Minister as well to actually we've put our teams together to work together in this way. So, it's a great initiative. We're fully supportive of it. New Zealand has had a strong bilateral set of policing arrangements throughout the Pacific, and that will continue, but to be able to do that in a group where the group can come together with common approaches and common understanding of each other's practices, like we do in many other theatres, and other areas as well, is a good thing.
Well, why do we need the Australian Policing Initiative, given that we can all come together in a situation like CHOGM, and all the Pacific Policing and New Zealand and Australia just work together?
Yeah, look, it's just stepping it up and formalising it. You've seen issues, as you'd be well aware of, around transnational crime. We've got major challenges with narcotics through the Pacific and coming into Australia and New Zealand, so those issues are shared and joint. And just to have more formalised coordination of it, I think, is a good thing as we go forward from here. I know there are calls from the Pacific to actually want to have a police ministers meeting, and I think that's probably not a bad idea, but I'll hear that out today as well. But I think there's just a desire to say, look, it works well. We should just continue to, deepen it up and to formalise it more, and I think that's a good thing.
What does that look like? What would you like CHOGM to look like in the future? What is your vision of CHOGM in the ideal world?
Look, I think CHOGM's, I think Don McKinnon summed it up best, many years ago when he said it's about democracy and it's about development, and I think really that's the nature of where the conversation should be heading to. It's a challenge always thinking about what CHOGM does that's additive to all the other fora that we have. So we obviously have COP, talking about climate change. We need to be able to talk about that aspect in the context of development within the Commonwealth. Obviously there's ongoing work to make sure we strengthen our institutions, the rule of law, democratic institutions, reduce corruption, all those good things that we should continue to do work around as well. So, for me, I'm anchored in the conversation around democracy and development.
What has New Zealand achieved on this trip?
Well, again, it's been we've got a role to play. I mean, it's been a marvellous opportunity for me over the course of dinner last night. I had a number of engagements with Her Majesty, but also with other leaders from Sierra Leone and from across different countries, Kenya, and it was just Jamaica. It was just good to have conversations about what are the issues that they're thinking about as well. And it is a rather unique and special body. As I said, 56 countries, 33 of them small island developing states, and you've got a young population. You've got 2.5 billion people represented by the leaders here across the world. That's a huge amount of economic activity, but also they're also a young population. 60% under the age of 29. So I think there is opportunities to sort of also use the Commonwealth potentially to share good practice that's happening in different parts of the Commonwealth, and I think the fact that arguably it's democracy that sort of brought this group together, and how do we keep strengthening those aspects?
With that in mind, what are you hoping to achieve objectively out of a retreat this afternoon?
Again, for me, it's my first CHOGM, and so I made statements yesterday around climate in particular. Today will be again a sense of we'll go through a Secretary General appointment process, which will be quite an important part of the first part of the meeting, and then it'll be really around as I said, I think my remarks today will be sort of anchoring around democracy and development and how we actually lift prosperity across the region in these small island developing states as well. And what are the peculiar challenges that they see and opportunities that they see. We got into a little bit of a conversation, you've heard it talked about publicly around AI. Is there good practice that's happening in parts of the Commonwealth that actually could be applied to other parts that therefore could lift productivity across these economies that actually need a step up. So it'll just be an interesting broad-ranging conversation.
So how are you hoping to emphasise that kind of rule of law at the retreat and what can actually be done?
Well, there'll be candid, free and frank conversation, and that's where I'll participate. Yep.
What was it like dining with the King last night? Did you use the right knife and fork, keep your elbows off the table and all that?
Well, you sat next to the Queen, didn't you?
Yes, I did, yes. So, no, it was fantastic. I had a great time with her. She's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Again, has a deep appreciation of New Zealand, a great sense of humour, and no, we had a wonderful evening actually. It was lovely.
What were some of the comments that she made about New Zealand, or what sort of aspects do you think she deeply appreciated?
Both the King and the Queen, they know New Zealand really well. They've been there many, many times. They have strong connection to the people. They understand our culture. They understand our humour. They have huge appreciation for it. So I found in my interactions with the King yesterday and also with the Queen last night, it was just, they're just wonderful people to talk to. They're really fantastic.
So do you think CHOGM gives the monarch influence and relevance in today's with the platform of the Commonwealth?
Well, I think that CHOGM's actually a really important body, because it does something unique and different. To have those 56 countries and the makeup and the composition that they are, representing different parts of the world but different stages of country development, is kind of important. So if you're thinking about, for example, Security Council at the UN, I think CHOGM developing some thinking around what it thinks about representation at the UN on the Security Council, that's the sort of way it could have an input into strengthening democracy around the world. So I think it is actually a group of countries that choose to come together.
Beyond the aspect of it being a forum that brings leaders together, do you think the King's speech, for instance, will resonate or have influence or impact among the leaders? Did you take note of it and think, those are good points, we should move in that direction?
Yeah, look, I think there was. I thought his speech was excellent, and I also think we talked a little bit last night about actually CHOGM is a group that actually can be really good for the world. What's the potential of CHOGM? I'm always thinking about that. What would CHOGM look like at its absolute best? What would it bring to the world in terms of that debate about strengthening our institutions and the international rules-based system? So, I think there's some really great potential in CHOGM, and it's a question of how we harness it, given everyone's in slightly different spaces with slightly different realities. But there's a commonality and a shared set of values that brings everyone together.
Sir Keir Starmer is here as well, UK Prime Minister. They've just moved to ban disposable vapes in July next year. Has your government got any plans to do anything similar?
At this stage, we've just introduced our vape laws, just toughening things up a little bit. So we'll continue to look at it and monitor it.
What sort of timeline have you got on continuing to look
at it's just ongoing. Yep, nothing specific.
Prime Minister, being here the last 3 days, what will be your take from Samoa and being here in New Zealand?
Well, I have to say it's been, I think, an incredibly successful CHOGM, and I think Samoa should be incredibly proud of what they have achieved here. For a small Pacific nation to step up and own it and deliver a world-class forum in the way, and a world forum with so many world leaders here, has been absolutely outstanding. So, as I've said to Prime Minister Fiame again yesterday, I hope she feels proud. I hope that the government of Samoa feels proud. Most importantly, I can hope the people of Samoa feel incredibly proud. The way that each village has adopted a country has been really, really special, and it's been awesome just driving around and waving to people out the window, and I've been excited to see what's going on. So I just hope Samoa feels incredibly proud, because it has been very successful. Your Prime Minister has chaired our meetings incredibly effectively, and the people have got him behind, and it's no mean feat to host 56 leaders and all their delegations and all their officials that come with them. So I hope you feel proud.
Just very quickly, domestically, I mean, just back to the tragic stabbing on the Auckland bus the other day, you did mention the fact that you were looking into various different ways to bolster security on buses. I'm just wondering where you got to that conversation, where Mark Mitchell and Simeon Brown are at with that, and what can we expect going forward?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's just, I mean, the event is absolutely shocking, and I mean, that could be any one of us. It could be, you know, there was an individual just going about their daily life, and that's why it's so utterly shocking and also utterly unacceptable. Yesterday, Minister Mitchell and Brown met with AT and also with police. We obviously have the $15 million we set aside at the budget to actually harden the environment around public transport workers and drivers. But I know both Simeon and Mark are going to have more to say about that today, and I'll let them talk to that.
Does that need to be bolstered, that $15 million?
Again, we're up for any conversation. The reality is the money's made available for then local authorities and local councils to access so that they can harden up security on the bus services and the public transportation that they provide. But again, I know Minister Mitchell and Brown will have more to say about it shortly.
Prime Minister, when can we expect you to come back to the Pacific region, make another visit again?
Well, I've spent a lot of time in the Pacific in my first 11 months, and I love coming here, and I'll come here as often as I possibly can. You know, a lot of my focus has been to make sure at a governmental level we're being good partners and good support to Samoa hosting CHOGM. You know, that's why I'm proud. We've had almost 500 personnel here. We've had a number of assets. You know, we've put a huge investment in to help facilitate things like the cruise ship and other things. So, no, it's an area I love. You know, Prime Minister Fiame and I talk quite dynamically, you know, on the phone, and also, you know, when she's coming through Auckland or I'm in the region as well. So, no, I expect to have a high diet of engagement with the Pacific.
And just back on CHOGM, many local businesses such as this one have expressed their frustrations in regards to business being slow because of the closures during CHOGM. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that is, you know, something that we all experience when we host international events. You know, that's the focus for the country at that point in time, and you know, whether it's APEC, whether it's East Asia Summit, you know, that is sometimes the reality of hosting an event like this. But I think the long-term benefits are fantastic. You should have heard the number of leaders yesterday that stood up talking about how awesome Samoa was, and you've got to remember, most of the leaders in that room have never ever been to the Pacific before, and so they were blown away, absolutely blown away. So that has to be good, because it means that the engagement's there for future trade, future investment, future connections, exports, imports, economic development with other countries that have been for the first time discovered the Pacific, and it's been anchored in Samoa here.
We can't expect any more sort of big announcements or movements off the back of this, off the back of CHOGM?
Obviously today, you know, we'll kick off the leaders retreat at 10. The big news will be really the appointment of a new Secretary General. That'll be a process that'll be discussed, I imagine, in the first few hours, and then there'll be another opportunity for us to talk about, hopefully, at the end of that, and we can also catch up on the plane on the way home.
Do we know who New Zealand is hoping to support as the next Secretary General?
We have our lead thoughts, but we'll keep those to ourselves and debate that in the retreat. Okay. Yes, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.